ورسوله. I believe in God and His Messenger. I believe in God and His Messenger. So meaning that our allegiance as Muslims, before having an allegiance to an imam, before having allegiance to a madhab, before having an allegiance to this and this and this and this, the first allegiance of a Muslim is to Allah and to His Messenger. That is the first allegiance. Even in the Quran itself, it says, "Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul minkum." The first things to give obedience to is God, then His Messenger. Everything else is below God and below the Messenger. The 12th thing that he mentions, and this is the last thing that he mentions, and I found this to be a very powerful thing that he mentions, is having bad opinions or having evil opinions of others. Swa'adhan. Having evil opinions or bad opinions about other people. The scholars of Islam have coined a phrase, and I think it's a phrase that we should learn if we do not know the phrase already. It's called husnathan. Husnathan. And basically this translates into positive conjecture. And I know that sounds like very formal and very, very high language, high English. So think of it like this. The expression, assume the best before assuming the worst. This is a good translation of husn al-dhan. Assume the best before assuming the worst. And again, that's important because we're so quick, especially in today's world. We are so quick to assume the best. To assume the worst before assuming the best. So obviously, we should try to not allow the shaitan to come to our hearts. And the last thing he mentions is to assume the best when you're dealing with people, unless there is evidence to the contrary, that you are to assume the best before assuming the worst. Because if you assume the worst, that's what you're going to find. If you assume something evil, eventually you're going to find it. And if it's not there, you're going to create it in your mind. And that leads to all kinds of destruction and all kinds of problems. So I know that we've actually spoke for a very long time, and inshallah in the future we can still talk about the tazkiyat al-nafs, or the purification of the soul, with excerpts from Imam al-Ghazali. So if anyone has any questions or comments, I'm willing to listen to them. Yes.
Thank you. I guess my question is, how do you fight consumerism? Because even you go to like Mecca, the holiest place on earth, I mean, there's big malls now and there's shops everywhere, and it's distracting. So how do you fight it in a society that tells you to just buy more? Even in Muslim societies, is there?
A wonderful question. I think that one of the most important ways to fight that is what is called qana'a, meaning contentment. Imam Ali says that al-qana'atu malun yunfadu, that contentment is a wealth that never diminishes. So perhaps just looking at your needs, maybe you need a house. That doesn't mean you need 10 houses. You may need a house. That doesn't mean your house has to be the size of the White House. So perhaps the first thing is looking at it from it like that. And the second thing, and perhaps most importantly, is to remember Allah. And remember that according to our religion, this world is actually a temporary one. We're going to leave this world one day. And all the stuff that you buy is going to go to somebody else. It's going to go to pay your taxes. It's going to go to someone is going to inherit. Somebody's going to throw it away. You know, it's going to go to somebody else. All the stuff that we buy, it's going to go to somebody else. So, if you think of it like that, then, you know, inshallah, we won't be affected too much by consumerism. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want give me a copy of the notes. I want that one thing down. And what was that we discussed? I forgot the sect that you said yesterday with
the ones who pay to go to the Jannah.
Yeah,
Okay, it is a sect that's called Ismaili. Yeah, they're also called Aga Khanis. They're a very small sect, and they're not considered to be Muslims by the majority of Muslims, but obviously they see themselves as Muslims. And what it is in their understanding is that you know, the Quran says وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. That so they understand this verse and the verses like it to mean that God has always placed on earth an imam. This is like a Shia concept, but the Ismaili are a small Shia sect, not even considered mainstream by the Shia. Anyway, as a consequence, they have imams, and the current imam, I believe, is the 44th imam in their line that has, you know, been in existence for maybe 1,000 years, like 400 years, 500 years. I'm not sure. I can't remember all the history right now. Anyway, so the imam is God. They understand him to be what is called mazhar, that he is like God's copy on earth. He represents God, and so because he represents God, you know, he has the ability to you know, make sure you go to paradise. He has the ability to do this and do that. So it's on that basis that they have this practice. But they're a secretive sect. I believe there's maybe 10 million of them in the world, 15 million in the world at the most. Yes.
You talked about anger earlier and how it's, you know, it makes you vulnerable to the Shaitan. Is there ever a time when maybe anger is, I don't know, justified or maybe even necessary?
That's a wonderful question. There are scholarly discussions about that. An example would be, what if you're walking past and you see a child being attacked or a child being abused. In that circumstances, there is a healthy anger. And that anger may lead you to do something about it. To save the life of that person. So there are instances wherein anger could be constructive. But as a general rule, the opposite is the case. And I know some philosophers, some of them say otherwise, and some of the Hindu philosophers, they kind of argue that anger is divine. But, the way that is generally presented in our deen is that anger is something to be avoided. So there is a hadith which says that the man came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him for advice, and the Prophet repeats 3 times, "La taghdab, la taghdab, la taghdab," meaning don't give in to the tendency to become angry. And indeed, in the Quran, وَقَادِمِينَ الْغَيْثِ, I think it's the expression, that among the qualities of those who go to Jannah are those who restrain themselves when they're in a rage. It's one thing to be angry when you're in a rage. So when you restrain yourself, that is an attribute of a person who deserves God's Jannah. Yes.
I had two things.
Please.
First is a question.
Please.
And the question is, in addition to our daily prayers, what's a good supplication or prayer to say to ask for the purification of our souls?
Oh, that is a wonderful question too. I think the answer lies in some of the things that Prophet Muhammad did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in addition to the 5 daily prayers, we have the sunnah prayers. You know, like the 2 rak'ahs after Maghrib, or the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr. You know, perhaps doing more of the sunnah prayers and the voluntary prayers. So that helps. As far as the supplication, in terms of purification, yes, there is a prayer that normally we say after the taslim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. One of the prayers of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam is, and I'll say the words in Arabic, Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam tabarakta ya dal jalali wal ikram. Oh Allah, you are the source of peace. Allahumma anta salam. You are the source of peace. Wa minka salam. From you comes peace. Blessed is you, the one who is the possessor of glory and who is the most noble. Anyway, as part of the tazkiyah, as part of the purification of the soul, is that idea of peace. Because peace is obviously the opposite of anger. Peace is obviously the opposite of rage. You know, so even I find myself, after Salah reciting this prayer, that kind of, it helps. And you had a second question, or did I answer?
I had a comment.
Please.
I was just thinking that an indication something is creates a disharmony or is impure from the soul is that those are all the things that we are supposed to stay away from during Ramadan, especially. So I think that's a good indication to go by, is that if it's something that you should stay away from during Ramadan, then it is something that will create disharmony within yourself.
You remind me of when I was preparing this discussion. In the other one, Kamiyya da Sa'd, Imam Ghazali, he mentions a hadith, and because he has chapters on all the pillars of Islam, so he has a chapter on fasting, and he mentions this hadith, and the hadith goes like this: is that there were 2 women who were sick. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but there were 2 women who were sick, and they were made to throw up. You know how you put your, throw up, so they're made to throw up. And then they had been fasting. But so what are they throwing up? Or in the hadith, there was like flesh. Why is that? Because while they were fasting, they were gossiping and backbiting. So, admittedly, we're conscious of this stuff in Ramadan. But as you're saying, and as rightfully said, that we should be conscious about it at all times, not just in Ramadan. And let me add something to that. Smoking cigarettes. I don't care if it's halal or haram. That's not my issue for the moment. But when Ramadan comes around, people stop smoking. If you can give up smoking in Ramadan, then why not give up smoking all the time? Why not use the things that Allah gives to work on that stuff that's hard to give up? And whether it's backbiting, whether it's smoking, whatever the situation may be, use the pillars of Islam, or use use the commands of Allah, use the rituals, the spiritual rituals that Allah has given, in order to work on those other things. Yes, sir.
Yes, I like the one back up a bit. There's one I heard, a hadith I heard about anger. It was in the time of war we had. Dr. Waheed, Sheikh Waheed, he was giving the khutbah, and he was telling about, he was like, he went to the where Ali was in battle.
Yes.
He got the person he was in combat with down, but you know what I'm saying, and you know, fighting the holy war, jihad. And so the man he was in combat with spit in Ali's face, and he drew back the sword, but he stopped. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, what that thing was pertaining to, like you said, the anger. He couldn't slay him out of anger. And, you know, he let him go. And that was one of my, I don't know why I picked that one. That's one of my favorites.
Well, it's a good example, because what happens is that, you know, first of all, Ali is not fighting very long, and he's not fighting, you know, just for the sake of himself. He's fighting fi sabilillah. Yeah, in the cause of Allah. And so when the guy spit in his face, like, it's another thing altogether. Like, you know, this is personal now. It was, you know, it's nothing personal, it's just business. But it became personal, it's no longer business. So, you know, when he realized it became personal, he said, "This is not fi sabilillah anymore." So I know this. So he gives that up.
Yeah. Now during the khutbah, after he said that, he's like, "But hey, you know, this is a good highest brother. You know what I'm saying, doctor and everything." But he said, "Hey, this is my guy though." He's like, "Hey, but had he spit, someone spit in my face, I'd have cut his head off." That's the exact phrase. And then, you know, there's like, "Yeah, you been around tires too long." You know what I'm saying? But I understood where he was coming from, though. But I stood both sides. But I like when it came up to me afterwards. You know, we talked about it. You know, I said, "But you know, it's not good to be in anger in no time." You know,
I want to mention here, since we're having this discussion, that sometimes we get angry at people, and sometimes what it is maybe, let's just call it cultural idiosyncrasies or cultural differences. I don't mean even besides someone from one country or another country, but even from the same country. Here's an example that we find in the hadith literature. There was once the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims were in the mosque, and a man comes along and starts urinating in the mosque. I think we know the story. A man comes along and is urinating in the mosque. And so, you know, the Sahaba, they were ready to get up and teach him a lesson that he would never forget. But the Prophet stopped them. The Prophet, he stopped them. And he went and told the man, you know, this is not the place where you do that. And then he himself cleaned it up. The Prophet himself poured water over it and cleaned it up. Why did the man do that? The man was a Bedouin. You're in a desert. You know, nobody around. You're not looking for a toilet. You're going to take care of your business where you need to take care of your business. And so this is the way some people are used to. They don't know that some things are considered inappropriate. And by the way, Imam Ghazali mentions these things too. He mentions a lot of examples illustrating the same point. And what about us? Sometimes we see that people throw their coats in the masjid, like everywhere, even though there are coat racks all over the place. People throw throw their shoes all over the place, even though there are shoe racks. You know, and it's not that they're bad or anything like that. It's just that either they don't realize that you know there's another place to put it. Or they don't realize the importance of it. You know, sometimes it's the little things that get us angry. When all it is just a misunderstanding. You know, some people they're used to putting their stuff like that instead of another way or another place. So as part of diffusing anger is a little bit of understanding, and this is why you have to really appreciate a man like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last Prophet of Allah, because he had a very beautiful ability. The ability to understand all kinds of people and to deal with all kinds of people, all kinds of personalities, all kinds of backgrounds, etc., etc. He had that wonderful, beautiful ability, and because of that understanding that he had of human nature, because he's human himself. He's not a Superman. I always say he's not Superman. He's not Clark Kent. He's not the son of God. He is a normal man. And Abashar Mithlukum, the God tells him to say, I'm just a normal man like you. And so he had the ability to understand human beings, perhaps more than other people. And so because of his ability to understand human beings, he was able to bring success to the Ummah, to the Muslim community, and to bring something which is lasting. And this is why, quite frankly, that the deen which he taught will be the one that in the end is successful. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق يظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. God is sufficient as a witness to this issue or to this fact. Yes, ma'am.
I think that just as Shaitan can be speaking to you through all of these different things, that on the upside of that Allah also interjects a lot of times and offers you some insight on those things, because there may be times where, I mean, personally speaking, that I have been angry and then been speaking to someone and then they reacted in a positive way where they were not angry, and it kind of causes embarrassment to you, and it causes you to feel foolish for being angry or something like that. Or for a person who, any of those things, there's always Allah's presence in that also, whether somebody, is receptive to that or not. Like two people who are alone together, who shouldn't be alone together, there may be something that causes some embarrassment to that too. Maybe somebody might catch them, or maybe a prayer time might come around, or suddenly their phone goes off. I mean, just imagine being in that situation, then you hear the alarm. That should cause you some embarrassment. But I mean, there's the upside to that is that even though Shaitan may be speaking to you, Allah's presence is always there. There's a statement in the Quran that's repeated repeatedly. It says, وَمَكَّرُوا وَمَكَّرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. That there's plots that people make, but Allah makes plots, and Allah is the best of plotters. So, even in the machinations of Shaitan, or the machinations of this person, or this group, even within that, the hand of Allah is always present. And this brings us up another thing. Like sometimes we have to go through the haram in order to get to the halal. And I know that sounds weird, and I know it sounds unusual, but sometimes, and especially so in our country, especially so in our society and all that, sometimes people have to, maybe the example I should share is that of a child. I'm sure these guys have done it before. Climbing a tree. Your parents told you, don't climb that tree, you're gonna fall, boy. Or girl. And they just don't listen, they don't listen. Finally, they climb a tree, and the branch breaks, and they fall down. I hurt myself. So now he or she learns. Like, okay, now I see the wisdom, I shouldn't have climbed that tree. Any other comments or thoughts? Okay. Well, if there's no more comments or thoughts, let me conclude with a dua. And we can, this should be Aisha time now, I think. Is it Aisha time now?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll pray Aisha and have some snacks downstairs. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Glorifies you, O Allah, and to you belongs praise. We testify none to worship except you. We seek your forgiveness and turn to you in repentance.